Welcome back, Stack in the Box. My name is Mike Luciano, and I am here with New York Giants legend, two-time All-Pro, 66 and a half career sacks, and Super Bowl champion, Justin Tuck. Justin, thank you for being here.
All right, my pleasure.
And I believe that you are doing something with Abbott and Real Madrid.
Yeah, man. So I came out of retirement a couple of weeks ago and was able to kind of put my athletic prowess to the test. We got the opportunity to work with Abbott Insure, Max Protein, and Real Madrid on taking our skill set, taking my skill set as a football player and seeing how it correlated to that of the other football, soccer, and got the opportunity to do it with a lot of athletic friends and entertainers and influencers. And it was just a lot of fun, man. Just getting the opportunity to go through these drills and this clinic, being coached by Real Madrid coaches on things in which I'm a really good football player, not a really good soccer player, but coming out of it, being taught and being able to do some things with them after we left there was tremendous. And in doing that, obviously, my muscles and my body is not a spring chicken anymore. So having the opportunity to kind of refuel and replenish with Ensure Max Protein was phenomenal. So had a lot of fun. Again, getting exposed to things that I haven't did and doing it with great people was a tremendous opportunity for me.
So you don't think you'll be the next Deion Sanders or Brian Jordan or?
Nah, listen, I've transitioned mostly out of sports. I'm in finance now, so I guess I'm one of the first Justin Tucks. How about that?
That's a pretty badass answer. I'm not gonna lie. So. Now, if you're qualified to you're qualified on so many things, but especially the New York Giants with how your career went. And obviously, the biggest question surrounding the New York Giants right now is what the hell's going on with Daniel Jones at quarterback? What's your whole take on that situation just 1,000 feet away? Because the natives are kind of getting restless with Daniel Jones over on the WFAN phone lines. So,
yeah, well, here's the thing. I think a lot of times they like to, when first got drafted, they like to say, hey, he reminds me of Eli Manning. If you think about Eli's first couple of years in this league, it wasn't pretty. And I do think this is a make or break year for Daniel, in my humble opinion. But I also think he really hasn't played that bad, to be very honest with you. It's just tough in New York because everything gets magnified to the 10th degree. And I'm really, really rooting for him. Obviously, he has to stay healthy. He's had that neck issue and the knee. But I do like what the Giants have done as far as like showing up and bringing in some O-linemen who we feel as though can protect him. He's been really, really kind of, behind the eight ball in that regard in his career. But he also has to be smarter, right? He has to be able to get rid of the ball when things break down and not take that sack when he gets out of the pocket because obviously he's a phenomenal athlete. When he gets out of the pocket, don't take that hit down the field, slide, or get out of bounds. Those are the type of things I think that he's learned, I hope, and will hopefully shore up his safety perspective. But like him throwing the football, listen, I honestly think he made one bad throw in that game. Obviously, the pick six is something he shouldn't have thrown, and that's going to come. It's a preseason game. That's what these games are meant for, to get those things out of your system. Now, I'm talking about this week. Now, if that's something that we're seeing in week 4, then, obviously there's a different conversation around that. But the ball up the sideline to Hyatt, I don't see anything wrong with that ball other than maybe a yard placement outside. And that's a touchdown. Now, the cornerback made a phenomenal play on that, and I know Daniel will want that ball back. But as far as a preseason game, getting your timing right and taking that shot, I have no problem with that throw, right? And probably in a regular season game, I probably wouldn't have much problem with that throw other than he missed it by a yard. I mean, he is human, and I've seen great quarterbacks miss that throw too. So I am all for the scrutiny because, listen, we get paid a lot of money playing this sport. These fans come out and they pay a lot of money to watch us play that sport. You have the ability to complain all you want to. I'm never going to stop a fan from doing that. You have the right to do so. But I also think it's somewhat unfair given that there's been so much, fluctuation during his time as quarterback here. So I'm hoping that we can get the standard of, hey, Dabo's going to be there a long time. He's going to get set in this offensive line that's going to be there a long time. The wide receivers are only going to get better. What they've done with, assembling that group with really, really young studs that can grow together. I think the future is bright. But I also understand that we haven't done much in the last 10 years. And I can understand from a fan base why that is frustrating. So I do think we're moving in the right direction, but I also understand that like that right direction has to really start to cement itself this season and the next.
Now, in kind of a funny twist of fate, one of the two teams you obviously played for were the Giants and the then Oakland Raiders, and now one of your former teammates, Antonio Pierce, is running the show with the Raiders over there. And you know as well as anybody what a great football mind Antonio Pierce is, because when he got hired, it was always, oh, he's leadership and a rah-rah guy, but you can't be a middle linebacker in this league, especially as good as he was, without being super football smart. So,
Yeah.
how do you think Pierce is going to do in charge of the Raiders?
Well, he won't like what I'm about to say from one perspective, but he'll love what I'm going to say out of this. You got to think about how his career evolved and how good he was at middle linebacker. Antonio is not that athletic. Like, he's going to hate me saying that. AP, there's no metric of athleticism that he's going to jump off the wall with. He's not nowhere near the strongest. He's not nowhere near the fastest. None of that. And think about it from this perspective. He still made every play that he was supposed to make at that linebacker position. And that speaks to how smart he is and how instinctive he is. And obviously, there's no question about his leadership. So I know for a fact that team is going to be better just because of the fact that he's going to have everybody on that team wanting to run through a wall for him, because he is a player's coach, 100%. And by player's coach, I don't mean he's soft and he's their friend. No, he knows how to get the most, extract the most out of his players because he's been there and he knows what works from that motivation perspective. Add into the fact that he is much more than people think or have given him credit for, a football-minded person. And I think he did the right thing, right? He's never been in the head coaching position. So what does he go do? He goes and calls Coach Coughlin and Coach Marvin Lewis, guys who've had phenomenal careers in this sport, to help fill in the gaps and the things that he might not necessarily know as being the head of the helm. So I'm excited for that team. I'm excited for AP. I have a lot of faith that he's going to figure it out and do a phenomenal job as they continue to grow that team and find the right pieces of the puzzle for that franchise. But, I laugh at people that have that narrative around that he doesn't know football. That's okay. Yeah, go into a game and thinking that you're going to outplan that guy or out scheme him. Good luck, especially on the football. I'm on the defensive inside. I mean, on the defensive side. But I mean, think about it, right? If you're a middle linebacker and you're helping put forth game plans to go against the Tom Brady's and the Peyton Mannings and so on and so forth of the world, that also means you have to understand a little bit about the concepts of offenses too, right? I mean, that should be common knowledge. So I laugh when people kind of bring that up, but again, I think he still has some pieces to fill as far as talent on his team, but I do think that he's going to be able to do a phenomenal job for that franchise. But solely based on the fact that I know I've talked to guys on that team and they absolutely love that guy.
You brought up Tom Coughlin, and even being a Gold Domer at Notre Dame and coming from Ty Willingham, I'd imagine that Coughlin kind of ran things a little differently than Ty Willingham. Do you have any Tom Coughlin stories from maybe when he came into the league when you're like, wow, this guy is there? This is the guy who's turned the clocks back in the meeting rooms. I mean, any stories like that where you're like, all right, this is the NFL. This is no joke.
Oh, listen, I have not been shy about telling people my first couple of years that I absolutely hated the man. Didn't like him at all. And it speaks to how deliberate he is in how he builds teams and how he builds the characters of the players on his team. Because, again, the first couple of years there, I absolutely hated him. And it got to a point when I figured out what exactly he was doing to help mold young players and mold me and mold our team to be what we ended up being. You find this unbelievable respect for the guy because, in a lot of ways, a lot of things that he was doing in our viewpoint wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, once it clicked on us, we started really, winning Super Bowls and having opportunities to win multiple Super Bowls, et cetera, et cetera. So I went from really hating the guy to willing to fist fight anybody who said anything bad about him. And I think a lot of that is predicated on, one, the consistency in which he showed up every day and was on message and really, really allowed us to see how to buy into that message. And once we bought into that message, it was very easy to see why this was the best thing for us. And he used to have a saying, it was like, and I'm gonna mess up the quote, but basically the quote was like, the coach's job is to make you do the things that you don't want to do will allow you to become the person that or the player that you want to become. And that's a hard stance to play because, as a head coach, even though he made a phenomenal living, he had players that was making more money than him, that had probably more say so with ownership because they were those type of players. But he kept true to who he was and what he was trying to build, and obviously the rest is history. So I have nothing but respect and love for Coach Coughlin, and he's had a tremendous impact not only on my life, on and off the field, but for anybody who was a part of those teams while he was there, I guarantee you they'll say the same.
And I will say, because this is just my own personal opinion, I think you came into a really good situation as a defensive end because not only do you get Tom Coughlin, you get to learn from one of the best ever in Michael Strahan, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated players of the last probably 20 years in O.C. Umenyiora on the other side.
I didn't learn anything from O.C.
Good shots at O.C. All right, well then.
No, trust me, we do this all the time. I don't think he would not appreciate this interview if he saw it and I didn't take a shot at him. That's just what we do.
I was about to say, did you learn anything from OC, but I guess that's off. So learning from Michael Strahan, because even though you kind of got him on the back end, because his prime was probably like late 90s, early 2000s, like just being around him had to be great for a young player like you, right?
No, it was tremendous. And I mean, me, Michael, and OC, and all of us, we take shots at each other all the time. But that speaks volumes to the relationship we had, because we typically, when God takes shots at you, you want to fight him. For us, it was just like, how do I figure out how to take a shot at him higher than the one he just took at me? But like coming into the NFL and getting an opportunity to watch not only Michael but OC and how they prepared for the matchup in which they were going to play. Like I would see these guys doing moves in practice and getting pummeled. David Dill and Kareem McKenzie blocking the absolute, crap out of both of them. And I'll be like, why did he do that move? And then you go in the meeting room and watch film on the player that was going to play Sunday. And that's what they were working on. They didn't care about the instant gratification of being in practice and winning that matchup against those guys, because they felt as though, yeah, we can do it anytime we want to. As good as Deal and Kareem was, we see them all the time. We know them very well. To go out and win a matchup against them, they could do it. But what they were preparing for was whoever O-lineman they were going to play on Sunday and getting prepared for that person. And that's something I learned instantly in watching them about, how to prepare for this league, how to really, really stay, to have that staying power in this league was really, really being focused on what you need to do on Sundays. On top of that, just how they took care of their body and, how they watched film, all these things I had the opportunity to watch, And like the greatest thing for me was I got the opportunity to see it from different perspectives. I got to see it from like the old bull and Strahan and the young and up and coming and OC. So yeah, that was truly an advantage for me coming in, even though I was kind of pissed that, I went third round, and I look at all the people that went before me, and I think I'm better than that guy, whatever.
Wasn't that the Maurice Claret draft too? You're like, man, really?
Yeah,
I'm here?
It was. So like from that perspective, it took me some time to get over my own little inside feelings about being in the Giants, and then just like it dawned on me like this is the perfect place for me to be, as far as what I get exposed to on a day-to-day basis. And then, I guess the rest is history from there, because a lot of things that I did in the league and the versatility in which I played was predicated on watching those two and figuring out, how I fit into the middle of that.
So stacking the box, thank you guys for tuning in. We had a really good time with Justin Tuck and his 66 career sacks, his Super Bowl ring, and his 2-time All-Pro nominations. Justin, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing with Abbott and Real Madrid, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey, my pleasure, Mike.